Good evening. Get on the air. Am I on the air? No. Hello? No. Hello? Thank you. I need to make an announcement before we go any further. I'm tired and old, and I'm going to take a break after we finish Malachi until the fall, at which point, with God's blessings, we will dive head first into the book of Revelation in the fall. Billy asked me to ask you if you had any suggestions for what he could do in the intervening time. I didn't catch that. If you've got any suggestions, you need to let me know. We should be through here in a few weeks with Malachi. So we'll need about 4 months in the interim. So either let me or Billy know what you would like to do. Okay. In Malachi chapter 2 is a continuation of the condemnation that God uttered for the people for bringing lame, blind, and defective sacrifices. And he starts out in chapter 2 with this commandment or charge is for you, O priests, if you do not listen, if you do not take it to heart, to give honor to my name. Remember, he said that bringing unsatisfactory sacrifices or unacceptable was a insult to him. He says, then I will send a curse upon you and will curse your blessings. Indeed, I have cursed them, that is in the past, already, because you are not taking it to heart. And then that brings us up to verse 3. Behold, I am going to rebuke your offspring, and I will spread refuse on your faces, the refuse of your peace, and you will be taken away with it. When a Israelite brought a sacrifice, say a lamb, they would eat part of it and dispose of part of it. And this idea of the refuse that God is going to spread on the face of the priests, and how can I put this nicely? It would be the internal waste of the animal which had been brought for sacrificial purposes, and by the law was then carried outside the camp and disposed of. What God is saying is that I'm going to take, or have it done, that refuse or dung, some translations have, some have offal, and I'm going to spread it on your face. Now that is about as disgusting a thing that you can do to anyone else. But since they had shown contempt and dishonored his name by bringing these inferior sacrifices to be offered, by offering these blind or lame animals, he's going to repay them by giving to them the greatest disgrace that can be possibly done. I don't think we take this literally, but it is a sign that God is going to more than get even with those priests. You remember the verses? Wait a minute, back. He says, I have cursed them already because you are not taking it to heart. What does that tell you about God's appeals? That they had already been in progress for some time before Malachi wrote this prophecy, and that he had it up to here, as seen by his threat in verse 3. And you're going to be taken away with it. That is, you will be treated as dumb. I'm going to treat you the same way that I feel that you have treated me. He says in verse 4, then, when I have done that, you will know that I have sent this commandment or charge to you, that my covenant may continue with Levi. First part of the verse tells them that this is no idle threat. Then you will know. There will be no doubt about it, and you will learn of it by your bitter experiences, and consequences of the way you have been treating me are going to be brought back upon you.
And he does that very thing. He takes them away.
Yes.
He takes them away with all the garbage of what they had.
Yes. Yes. It's about as strong a picture of his contempt for the way they were abusing the sacrifices that could possibly be made. And this covenant could be the agreement that they should serve at his altar, which was a great what? Blessing, a great privilege, a great honor. And in all of, not just sacrifices, but all the work done throughout the temple in the presence of, shall we say, God himself, as he was supposed to dwell in the Holy of Holies, in the most holy place between the cherubim. Or, let's turn to Numbers 25. I thought about this, too late to get it on the slide. Or this covenant may refer to the covenant of peace that he made with a priest named Phineas. And in Numbers 25, we have the Israelites being seduced to idolatry and to immoral behavior by the Moabites and the Midianites. And we'll pick it up in verse 6. One of the sons of Israel, after this had already been exposed, what they were doing, came and brought to his relatives a Midianite woman, that is, a foreigner, an idolater, in the sight of Moses, right in front of him, and were weeping at the doorway of the tent of meeting, or the tabernacle. When Phineas, the priest, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose from the midst of the congregation and took a spear in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent, no less, pierced both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through the body. So the plague on the sons of Israel was stopped, or checked. Those who died by the plague were 24,000. Verse 10, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, quote, Phineas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned away my wrath from the sons of Israel, in that he was jealous with my jealousy among them, so that I did not destroy the sons of Israel in my jealousy. Therefore, tell him, behold, I give him my covenant of peace, covenant of perpetual priesthood, because he was zealous for his God and made atonement for the sons of Israel. Now, the reference in Malachi may be one or the other, or it could have a reference to both those covenants. But God was going to see to it that that covenant continued, hence the punishment that he was threatening or already started on the Israelite priesthood. Verse 5, my covenant with them was one of life and peace, and that's why I went to Phineas. It was called a covenant of peace. It was one of life and peace, him being Levi, the father of all the priests. And I gave them to him, Levi, as an object of reverence. That is, he should greatly honor and respect the duties and responsibilities that I have given to him. So, what did he do? He's looking back at former days. So he revered me and stood in awe of my name. Was that what God wanted? That's exactly what God wanted. Verse 6, true instruction was in his mouth, and unrighteousness was not found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and uprightness, and he turned many from iniquity. Now, what did the priests in Malachi's day do with the...
Just about the opposite.
Just about the opposite. They led people astray with both their teaching and their example that they set before the people. Now, verses 6 and 7, or 7, verse 6 and 7 stresses their responsibility as teachers in the Israelite community. Verse 7, for the lips of a priest should preserve knowledge, not corrupt it, and men should seek instruction from his mouth. For he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. But as for you, you have turned aside from the way. Now he's contrasting you priests today with what they were back in the days of Phineas. You have caused many to stumble by the instruction that you've been giving, and you have corrupted the covenant of Levi. Could be either one of those two we talked about just a minute ago. Says the Lord of hosts, so I have also made you despised and abased before all the people, just as you are not keeping my ways, but showing, and now he introduces another transgression, but are showing partiality in the instruction. In other words, they were favoring the rich over the poor, the high-ranking over the lower-ranking folks. He says that the priests in verse 7 should preserve knowledge, specifically the knowledge of the law of Moses. And he says in verse 9 that I have made you despised and abased by what he's going to do, according to verse 3, which we won't go through again. And in the instruction, the last part of verse 9, it refers to the way that they administered or carried out the law of Moses, specifically the laws having to do with the temple worship. Now, the scene shifts from talking to the priest directly to the people in general. And we got a discussion here that we have run across twice before: marriage, or the abuse of it. Verse 10, Malachi asks, do we not all have one Father? Has not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously each against his brother, so as to profane, and that word means to defile or corrupt, the covenant of our fathers? Judah has dealt treacherously. That's the people of God in general. And an abomination has been committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah has profaned or defiled the sanctuary of the Lord, which he loves, and has married the daughter of a foreign god. As for the man who does this, may the Lord cut off from the tents of Jacob everyone who awakes and answers, or who presents an offering to the Lord of hosts. Now, in verse 10, there's a repetition of the idea of one. One. Specifically, I believe it refers to one nation or brotherhood of Israelite men and women. And he says that, I think his concept here is that you are all spiritual brothers and sisters under my leadership as Israelites. All of you are loved, and all of you have been chosen by God. Indeed, Israel sustains a relationship with God that no Gentile could lay claim to. That doesn't mean Gentiles were lost. It just means that they had a peculiar, special relationship with God that no Gentile had. You remember in the first chapter we talked about he chose Jacob, but not Esau. That was the basis of the special relationship that God had with his people. They had one common father and had one common, let's call it a family compact or covenant under which they all agreed to walk under one common God. That is, they had a lot in common. So God was the common father of the people. And when it says in verse 10, has not God created us? He's not talking about the creation in Genesis 1. If you think about who is us here, Israel. Now, God created Israel how? You all know. He sent them down from Promised Land down to Egypt, where they grew for 400 years. He created them as a nation. He was responsible, solely responsible for their nationhood. And he says, has not one God created us? The Israelites were children of God, and divorce was a violation of this fellowship or joint sharing they had as brothers and sisters under one common Father. He says, you profane or defile the covenant of our fathers. How? With their intermarriages with ungodly, idolatrous, pagan women. Ezra and Nehemiah had already had to deal with this problem. Let's see. Ezra was probably there now, but he had dealt with it about 15 years earlier. Nehemiah had dealt with it about 25 or 30 years earlier. You remember he told them to divorce these women because they were intermarrying with the foreign women around them.
And they have agreed to it. And they have agreed to it and done it.
Yes, yes. We will do whatever you say, Ezra. We will do whatever you want, Nehemiah. And now here we are, less than a generation away from both of them, and we've got the same problem again. And I wonder how much of the blame lies at the feet of the priests. He says their instruction led people astray. And that's just a thought that you might want to consider. Now, the sanctuary in verse 11 of the Lord which he loves. I don't take that for the temple. I take that to be the Israelite people themselves, because he dwelt with them the same way he dwelt in the temple. And I think the point is clear. He's saying we Israelites should cooperate, work in harmony with each other, and marry within our own people. Because to divorce the wife of your youth, he's going to say, to deal treacherously with her in favor of going and marrying a pagan woman is a violation of everything that those people share together. Especially to the poor wives who are the victims of their husbands divorcing them to marry a foreign woman. Verse 12 says, the man who does this, the Lord will cut him off. That is, he will excommunicate him. What's another word? Shun. They just have nothing to do with. They'll lose we've talked about this, their family, their jobs, everything. They will be cast out of the Israelite community and have no dealings with them for the rest of their life. Now, the last part of verse 12. The Lord will cut off from the tents of Jacob every one who awakes and answers. The King James has the master and the scholar. The New King James has awake and aware. So what does that tell you about the Hebrew? It's a little bit difficult. But the point is that it includes all the people, and he's drawing two contrasting groups, of which those two groups all are in one or the other. I found this as a proverbial description of the wicked man formed by a combination of opposites, the custom of expressing totality by opposites.
NIV says,
yes,
the man who does this,
whoever he may be, is probably catches the idea better than my translation. Whoever he may be, without exception. Okay? Now, what about these people in the last part of verse 12 who are presenting an offering to the Lord of hosts? I think you could take that in one of two ways. One, it's these outward shows of religion that characterize the people who had no heart in it. And God will no longer pay any attention to it, whatever. Or, if you'll note the crying, wait a minute, let me see. Yeah, this is another thing you do. I'm sorry, in verse 13. This is another thing you do. You cover the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with groaning, because he no longer regards the offerings that you are making, neither does he accept it with favor from your hand. The people who are doing the moaning and the weeping could be these religious outward professors who are done, their heart is not in it. But it also could be a group of a special group of victims we just talked about, who are asking God for help. The women who had been divorced by their husbands were making an appeal to the Lord with their tears to help them. We've already discussed the status of a widow in Israelite society back then, especially one that had little or no family left to take care of her. Verse 14, yet you say, for what reason? That is, why does God not accept our offerings? Should they have known this by now? I'm hard-headed and stubborn. Betty will tell you that. But I think I might even get it. After what he's written so far, and has been carrying out the threats already before this was ever written.
It's not like in the day of Jesus, no matter what was said, they said, we have Abraham as our father.
Yes, we are Jews, and that's all we need to do. Yes. Why are you not accepting our sacrifices? First part of verse 14. I'm paraphrasing. Because the Lord has been a witness between you and the wife of your youth. These are the women who have been dumped. Innocent wives, women who have been divorced, against whom you have dealt treacherously by divorcing them, though she is your companion and your wife by what? A covenant. Folks, that is sacred. When God says what binds together a man and woman in marriage is a covenant, to which who is witness? God is witness. The covenant is a holy, divine covenant, and he's there to witness that covenant when two men, a man and a woman, are joined in marriage. So that's how strongly God feels about that. And this conduct was breaking up, or a sign of the corruption of the unity and the fellowship that he talked about earlier. One God. Didn't one God create us? Don't we have just one Father? Aren't we in this together? Aren't we special people together? And then these men treat their wives of their youth in such a despicable manner. Verse 15. I'm not even going to get into this. It is translated so many different ways. I'm going to give you the Hebrew literal reading. What's it called? It's not a... Anyway, here it is. Literally, and the rest of it I'll let you read for yourself. If that leaves you puzzled, it leaves me puzzled too, and it leaves Hebrew translators, Bible translators, puzzled too. Mine has, but not one who has done so, not one who has done so who has a remnant of the Spirit. Now that's just a shot in the dark, because I checked about 15 translations, and very few of them were anywhere close to each other.
All of 15?
No, that is all of 15. But I think the last part is where mine has, take heed then to your spirit. Take heed then, where am I? Here am I. Take heed then to your spirit, and let no one deal treacherously against the wife of your youth. Now they're pretty unanimous on that translation. The first part, we just don't know what it means. And with that, we will move along smartly. I don't know what it means. Verse 16. For I hate. Now we can tell what was the purpose of verse 15. For I hate divorce, says the Lord, the God of Israel, and him who covers his garments with wrong. Some translations have violence. Says the Lord of hosts, so take heed to your spirit that you do not deal treacherously. What does dealing treacherously have reference to? Divorcing your wife of your youth. And he calls it wrong, or in some translations, violence. That's what God thinks of divorce. And it's still true today. Has not changed. And he says in verse 16, let me see. Oh, and him who covers his garments with wrong. I kind of get the idea that their wickedness is going to stick to them for a while, or until they repent and make right the wrong that they have carried out against their innocent wives. Verse 17. Whoa. I didn't have verse 17. I'm sorry.
You didn't like it?
Not on the slide. So we're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way.
You didn't cut it out of your Bible, though.
I'm sorry.
You didn't cut it out of your Bible, though?
No, I didn't cut it out of my Bible.
Because when we studied Revelation, it says, add to or take away.
That's scissors, though. Can't do that.
You have wearied the Lord with your works. Yet you say, how have we wearied him? In that you say, everyone who does evil is good in the sight of the Lord, and he delights in them. Or, where is the God of justice? Now we've got another charge directed against the people as a whole. And we've discussed this before about their present status. They are depressed. And they are surrounded by enemies. And so who do they blame? God. They look and see their neighbors to the north and to the south and say, boy, these folks are doing great. And they could be looking at their own fellow Jews who, remember, the priests were guilty of partiality. Could be a group of people within the Jews or the pagan nations around them which were prospering. He says, this is what you say. I look at God's dealings with me, and I look at God's dealings with this fellow over here in the next country. And I say, well, what good does it do to follow God since he's doing well and I'm taking a beating? And if you want to read the whole thought about that, read David's Psalm 73. Because that deals with the same complaint. They are doing better than I am. Therefore, it is worthless or futile or vain for me to serve God when I am suffering and they are prospering. And he says, oh, he delights in them, implying, of course, that he does not delight in me any longer. Or where is the God of justice? Dangerous charges, in my view.
They're about to find out.
Sir?
I think they're about to find out.
They are going to find out. Yes. That question will not be left unanswered before we finish this class.
And this presupposes they feel themselves more righteous than God did.
Yes. Yes, we know. Yeah. We don't like the way God administers things because of the way things are going. Therefore, God is unfair or incompetent to deal with men fairly, justly, equitably. So these faithless people has, shall we say, worn out God's patience by murmuring and complaining. Where is God's justice in dealing with the foreigner, the rich people, and in dealing with me? And it seems they are saying instead of bringing the enemies to justice, that God is acting on their behalf for their good and forgetting about me. How many of you have ever felt this way? Good, not a single one person is courageous enough to admit that I sure don't like it when I see sometimes people, especially people I don't like, doing well, and I just took a pay cut.
We talk about that, basically, the good people and the bad people. Their crops doing good, whether they're trying to follow God or not. There's all kinds of things that still happen today.
Yep.
We question why people that are trying so hard seem to have such bad luck.
Saint.
Seem.
That's a good way of putting it. All right, we're going to end with this because the question, it's 8 o'clock, where is the God of justice, is going to be answered with chapter 3. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mike.
I've got, as we read Malachi, it's kind of scary to me. You know, we're obviously looking at Israel here, thinking about them. We've got to apply what's going on right here with us today also. So it's kind of surprising how much you compare the end of the Old Testament with near the end of the New in the book of Jude.
Mm-hmm.
When you read Jude, and you've got almost exactly the same thing you got in the first 2 chapters of Malachi. It's a repetition, unfortunately. It's just repeating itself.
Yes.
So, and that's within the church. When he says Matthew 7:21-23, not everyone who calls me Lord, Lord. And they will say, well, Lord, we prophesied in your name. Lord, we drove out demons. Lord, we did all these miracles in your name. And he's going to say, depart from me. Well, that curse, being away from, depart from God for eternity,
Yeah.
worse than having, awful real in your face.
All right, let us pray as we dismiss. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for your message. And help us, Father, especially to take the message, the lessons that are in it, and carry it out in our everyday lives. Especially when we see our neighbors seemingly prospering and we're not seem to be doing so well. Help us use that as a time to strengthen instead of weaken our faith. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.